Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Planet Film Network. I am one of your hosts, Sean Monk,
And I'm your host, TJ Cornwall.
and tonight we are coming to you with a special weekend update version of PFN. Due to some scheduling issues and some unfortunately personal stuff, we were not able to go live this week, but we wanted to get our Daredevil thoughts out there, get our review out there, because we have the freight train of the two-part kind of mid-season. Not like there's going to be even a mid-season finale. It's just a mid-season two-part episode coming out this week. So we wanted to give episode 4 a nice little spotlight here. Pretty long episode, which I didn't even realize until after watching it. 55 minutes. So this show definitely going on the longer side of the Disney Plus shows. But TJ, I feel like a lot of people have really come out with a lot of strong opinions about this show, both surprisingly positive and negative, a lot on this show. So I'll just throw it to you right now. Episode 4, jump into anything non-spoilery at the top you want, but how are you feeling about the show so far, the rhythm of it and everything coming out of episode 4?
Feeling good right now. Yeah, we kind of continue on case of the week, I would say, in this episode 4. And that's kind of building into, I think, what the season is probably gonna like end with. As far as Fisk and Daredevil kind of going back to what they know, I guess. And just it's just funny to watch, or not funny, but it's cool to watch like Matt and Fisk like fight against what they actually are. So like for Fisk, it's like playing by the rules and going and he wants to revamp this site, and it's like, well, actually we got to do this, this, and this, and then you got to submit it to this and all that stuff. Whereas before he could just be like, well, I'm just going to do this now, and whatever I got to do to get it done. And then as far as Matt is kind of letting the law play out, and how he deals with that. And obviously we get, this isn't a spoiler, but obviously we have John Berthal returning, and their conversation as well in the episode I thought was really good. And then we just kind of get some kind of, I guess, a little tease with I forget the villain's name. Muse. Don't really know. We're not really given much at all. In the very beginning of the episode, it opens, and then at the very end, it ends with something with Muse as well. But not much there other than that. But yeah, I thought it was a solid episode 4. I'll say it again. Not sure what Michael Gandolfini's doing in this show. He really needs something to do. And I really hope they give him something in these last 4 episodes. But so far so good. I'm having a good time.
Yeah, I agree a lot with what you said, for sure. I definitely came out way. I mean, I didn't even think. I just thought it was like, oh, that was a really, really good episode. And I was real surprised at how much people were not liking it, or not, or like feeling that it was kind of like out of step with itself. Like I did not feel that way at all. Like I really think, especially like some of the review sites and stuff that I normally watch like religiously about these things, I just think that people are so in their own heads about like the reshoots and the stitching together and stuff. And it's like, and I know that it's easier said than done. And it's like, I'm not saying like, oh, I can perfectly set aside my thoughts on that. But what's, someone at New Rock Stars, they really need to up their game on being able to be, impartial. Like, I don't even care about that. I'm just like, I just think like getting caught up in that, like you're just robbing yourself of the enjoyment of the show. And it's like, sure, whether they reshot stuff because they brought back the original Vanessa actress or whatever, I don't think for me it's really affecting the enjoyment of the show, or really the quality of the show, in my opinion. I just was shocked at how much of that stuff I saw online. But the episode in itself, I just thought was really great. And, is it as amazing as the heights of the courtroom drama of episode 3? Or is there, some amazing, dialogue and some amazing scenes like we had from Hector Ayala on the stand, in last week's episode? I think yes. I think there actually is some incredible acting in this that is as good as it was in episode 3. And again, I think I speak for both of us that we really loved episode 3. Um, I think that 4 is it kind of purposefully is like a step down to like I also saw a lot of people having issue with like, well, why are we following this like caramel corn crime?
Yeah.
Like what is this about with I forget the last name, but with Leroy, this
Mhm.
character that we get introduced to who is a you know, someone who is out of a house, out of a job, just living on the streets of New York City, just trying to make it. And I think that's like very intentionally what the show is saying. Is I think that everything that we're seeing, um, every scene in this show, and again, maybe this could be me giving it too much credit, but I'd rather just enjoy and have the thoughts that I have about these shows than try to like psychoanalyze. Am I giving the show too much credit? Am I not giving it too much credit? I just like watching it and thinking about it. And I just think that every scene we're seeing is every scene with Fisk is pushing him more towards Kingpin.
Yeah.
Every scene that we see with Matt is pushing him more towards Daredevil. And that is exactly what is happening. Is it's like we're seeing this Leroy, character because it's like, guess what? Matt Murdock, the lawyer, he takes cases like this. He just will take, whatever is up on the docket. And there's a little bit of a back and forth with that as well with Kirsten, with her saying, the money is running a little low right now. Like we got to start
Mhm.
taking some of these free jobs from the city to get some of our income up. And he's like, yeah, I'm meeting with banks and stuff. But in the meantime, this is the kind of stuff that they have to do. And I think that it wasn't just and I really like She-Hulk, but it wasn't a She-Hulk of, oh, this is going to be a lesser court drama. This, it's not as tied in with Hector, and you really felt the weight of the world with the White Tiger case. It felt huge.
Mhm.
And then this episode, they said, we're going to bring it like way back down, and I thought they did that in a really, really interesting and compelling way that was like, hey man, these people, like, they exist. There's people like this that exist, and it's like me as an audience member, you're sitting there going, probation, man, he got. And again, I guess we could transition to spoilers after this because I'm kind of just rambling into specific stuff. So I guess I'll just say, well, I'll end my non-spoiler thoughts there, where I think we both really enjoyed the episode. But we'll get into full spoilers here. So if you haven't seen it yet, probably tune out of this video, jump back in. Although the episode's been out for 2 days, so if you're watching this, you probably have seen it. That being said, I'm going to jump into some of the Leroy stuff. I think that you know, we're with Matt because we love Matt as an audience, and we're like, how is this not? I love to first of all, also just the dialogue, like just the actual words that the characters are saying, feel so much like the characters, and just feel like they live in those universes where it's like Matt's line of like he's so angry, he's finally at his breaking point where he's putting up with this guy making fun of him for being blind, and he's like, I do not understand how this is not a thank you counselor,
Yeah.
good job counselor situation. Like what, like dude, what do you want from me? And you as an audience, you're fully on Matt's side. And then with one amazing monologue, the actor who plays, and I'm going to look it up after this, or if you, I don't know if you have the cast pulled up there. The
Uh,
actor that plays Leroy,
Charlie Hudson the third.
yeah, Charlie Hudson the third. I mean, Jesus Christ, that guy was like, he was selling the hell out of every scene that he was in. And that goes to say a lot because really he's only in like the first half of this episode. Like this episode is very
Right.
like, I think first half, second half. Um, and I much prefer that. I mean, I feel like so many people were like, "Oh, these Disney Plus shows, nothing happens in them. They just drag out these plot lines and stuff." I feel like this show has so much to give us. There's like so much crammed into each episode in a good way. I like that there's room for a full case that he's working that doesn't even go to court. You know what I mean? It doesn't even go to trial. It just shows, kind of another aspect of being a lawyer is that it's like they're not all these big, huge court dramas. Sometimes it's just about talking to the district attorney or the assistant district attorney and figuring out, a plea deal and stuff like this.
Mhm.
But I really enjoyed what it had to say about Leroy, and it really distilled to the line of like, the system in this city is willing to pay 5 times more to lock me up than they are to feed me. And
Right.
like that weight, you just see that monologue hit Matt Murdock, and you see it on Charlie Cox's face. And I just think it's fantastic. And that is like 1/4 of what's great about this episode. It's just that little part of it. And I just really, really enjoyed it. So, I mean, you want to talk on the Leroy stuff or jump over to another, area?
Yeah.
I also love the scroll joke. I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. I
Yeah.
thought, and I assume when you were telling me on Tuesday night, I hadn't watched the episode yet, but you were saying about the funny joke, and I'm assuming you were talking about like we built this city. I thought that was a great like bit that kind of appeared twice when he's listening to the school kids sing it, and he's like, oh, that was great, and then the teacher's like, well, the next one, and he's like, oh, it's okay.
No, it's wonderful.
Something that I think this show needs more of, I'm not talking specific, I guess episode specific, it was more episode 3 that they appeared, I need more Kirsten, and then the other retired cop that I forget his name, Cherry. I think they need to, and I'm hoping they do this later on. I think we need more with them.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's obviously nobody's going to replace like the dynamic that Matt has with Karen Foggy. But if we can get somewhere close to that, where we have these friends that we can go to that we're in business with, I think that'd be great. That'd be huge for the show. And right now we're just not getting that. I feel like we're getting at with the Fisk side, where we get Sheila and then Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
We have Sheila and Daniel kind of, obviously Daniel in this episode, he just messes everything up.
Yeah.
But we kind of get their back and forth, and we get something with Fisk, and they're talking to each other, all this stuff. In this episode, we really don't get that. We get one phone call, and that's about it. And then
I didn't even, honestly, I love Cherry.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize he wasn't in the episode until you just brought it up.
Yeah. And like I said, not that they're like replacements, because we all know that they're coming back in season 2 of Karen. We don't know what capacity, but they will be coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see on that. But just I need something more relationship wise to kind of latch onto. And maybe that's kind of the point, that Matt is just very secluded right now. He's obviously still dealing with the whole Foggy thing, and he only really has Heather, which again, not, I would say, maybe the best chemistry between those two in the world. But I think we need some more relationships, to try and latch onto.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head there with like Matt feeling secluded is like, and I guess this can naturally take us over. Obviously, this is not a full show, so we were just talking about this episode, so it's going to be a shorter conversation. But I think that naturally takes us to Frank, which is somebody who just knows Matt from the old days. You know what I mean?
Right.
That just cuts right through him as soon as he sees him. The whole amazing stuff. And I do agree. I don't even know if it's a chemistry issue with Heather, or if that may be, in my opinion, genuinely just the writing, just not being there. I think it's like, we need Heather, I think, for some later stuff in the season. It feels like right now Heather as a character is just like kind of there to serve other storylines. And then she's going to have her big moment, later in the season, because obviously she's coming to a head with a lot of different things, where she's potentially seeing Muse as a client. We know she's seeing Vanessa and Wilson as clients. And honestly, really, I feel like Heather has a more interesting dynamic right now with Vanessa and Wilson than she does even with Matt. You know what I mean? And I think that's interesting, but I want to see that grow and kind of evolve. Especially if, and not to say that she's on a ticking clock, but I think it's very possible that we are saying goodbye to Heather this season. So it's like, if we're going to want to get to that emotional place with Heather, I'm thinking about Doctor Who now, where I'm like, maybe Heather doesn't even die, but it might be like this world is too much for me. I have to step back from you, Matt. You know, like we see that in Doctor Who all the time, that it's not always necessarily they die, but it's just like your world is too much and I cannot be part of it. If we're going to get to that emotional splitting moment, I do hope that we get some more really with Heather and Matt. And I know that we've seen Heather and Matt out to dinner together, and then we see Vanessa and Wilson out to dinner together. So it's like, I wonder if there's going to be an episode kind of about the couples, maybe like that is a little more focused on that. That's just speculation off of one trailer shot we haven't seen yet. But I do hope that we get more with Heather because I really like that actress. But again, like I said, that I think brings us over to Frank, who obviously the bullet casing that shot Hector leads him to there. Now, I just question whether people that like reviewed this show are actually watching the show.
Yeah.
Like, people are like, oh, how did he figure all that out just from feeling a bullet? I think he felt the bullet and went, oh, the Punisher logo. And I think Matt just knows where Frank is. Like, people are like, how did he know where he was based on the bullet? And it's like, he didn't know based on the bullet. Right. He probably just knows where Frank is. He probably keeps tabs on everybody.
Also, I would just like to say, I like that kind of stuff that they're doing in this show. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like this wasn't really in the Netflix series.
The like dolly zoom?
Where he's like kind of figuring stuff out, like using, his hearing or his really different
wasn't
senses.
In the other show.
I think that's a really cool thing they've added.
Yeah, I literally was sitting there and I was like, man, they're like making this, they're like really leaning into like the investigator side of Matt. You know what I mean? And I will say that they did do it in the other show, but it was just like they would it's really hard to like, we're really getting in the weeds here, but like it's like two different camera techniques where in the old show they would do like the split diopter shot, which is like where Matt's head would be really big in the frame, and then there was like the blurred line, and then you'd see what he was listening to like behind him, and like kind of two different focal depths in the same shot. This one, they're doing way more with like the dolly zoom where it's like they're pushing in on him and zooming out. So it's giving that like he's like turning his head and it almost feels like you're starting to hear the world around him like close in. I just think that that's so awesome. And they bring back again this week, which is another great scene. Thank you for bringing us here because you just reminded me of the great Powell scene that we got this week too with the badge and everything. Because they brought back, when Powell walks up, they brought back the changing aspect ratio that he's like honing in on like hearing things. I really like the way that Daredevil's powers are being portrayed. And I just love too that it's like, I was talking to my mom when we were watching this episode, and it's like being Superman doesn't make Clark Kent a better lawyer or a better journalist, but being Daredevil makes Matt Murdock a better lawyer, because it's like, sure, we haven't seen Daredevil a lot this season, but we've seen Matt using his powers over and over and over again, because Matt he just has a power set that's like, it's like with Peter Parker, right? Like being Spider-Man does make Peter Parker a better photographer because he can get these crazy shots and he can set up his camera, in these crazy locations and stuff. But that same way, it's like half of Matt's abilities he uses while he's a lawyer. You know what I mean? It's like the hearing, trying to see if people are telling the truth, telling Hector, hearing Hector's blood rate or blood pressure build up and going, do not react. Like that kind of stuff. I love all that stuff. And there's so much of it in the season. I think it's just fantastic. But yeah, let's dive in. I'm just going to throw it over to you and just dive totally in wherever you want to go with all this Frank stuff that we got at the end of this episode.
Yeah, I thought it was a great scene. Well acted by both Charlie Cox and John Bernthal. I loved the like, he's prodding him, he's trying to get it, and Matt's like, he got life, and then Frank was like, oh, did Foggy get life?
Yeah,
and it's like, oh my god. And so at that point I was like, oh, he's and then that kind of leads into him once he gets back home, he goes up to the apartment, or he goes up to his, I don't even know what you would call it, like a, like Batman has the
Yeah.
Batcave. What do you call this? Like,
Yeah, it's like the roof of his apartment, but it's like it's like one of those little it's like an old maintenance like
yeah,
shed on the roof of his building where
right.
he's got all the Daredevil stuff.
Yeah, and the episode ends with him kind of, training and starting to train. And obviously, it's been what I think it's been a year, so he's probably a tad
Yeah.
rusty.
Yeah.
But I thought, yeah, that scene with the two of them was absolutely amazing. I'm interested to see where he kind of pops up in the rest of the show. It was cool to hear him, talking about, like, I think at first I don't think Matt thinks that he shot White Tiger, but to see him acknowledge, like, oh yeah, a bunch of fucking copycats out there doing this shit.
Yeah,
I
it's
thought
like
was
I don't think Matt
interesting.
like, and not that you just said this, but yeah, I think it's more like Matt's like, dude, they're like out here using your symbol.
Yeah,
Like you're not responsible for this, but like, are you going to do anything?
yeah,
Like these guys are just out here either pretending to be you or purposefully framing you for crimes. And he's like, are you gonna help it? Are you gonna help us out here? Like, what the fuck? Like, I thought that was great. But yeah, and then obviously, just hearing John Bernthal say those words that like everything that's happened in the last 5 to 6 years in our real life, with everything with police and with different events that have happened and stuff like that, and obviously with George Floyd back in 2020, a lot of that stuff has crept into the real world of us now knowing about these internal gangs in police departments that like actual cops will form gangs inside their precincts and they'll get matching tattoos, and a lot of them do base it off of the Punisher, to the point where I think it was 2021 that Marvel unveiled a new Punisher logo, because the old one was getting appropriated by police so much.
oh
It's just wild to me that like all that stuff it was happening in the comics because of our real events, and now we're all of a sudden seeing John Bernthal, a character who played the Punisher before George Floyd even was killed, is now getting to act out all of this stuff that has happened as a result of the Black Lives Matter movement and things like that. We're now getting to see that live on the screen, like hearing him saying like, oh, a bunch of cops, bunch of copycat,
yeah.
no good, police, whatever. I think he calls them like a
It's also
badge toting lunatics or something. But
it's also funny to see John Bernthal playing in that whole thing with the cops and the Punisher logo. Because did you ever watch the We Own the City miniseries with him, where
no, I
he's
didn't.
playing
Yeah.
a corrupt cop
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
Baltimore?
exactly.
I just thought it was
Yeah.
really cool to see. Obviously, he played Punisher before that show, but
Yeah. But and even Shane too. I mean, I was thinking about Shane from The Walking Dead, where it's
oh
like,
yeah, Mhm.
this guy was loved being a cop, and that's a character that you see, him carry that cop essence into the post-apocalypse, and he like goes insane,
Mhm.
basically. I mean, that's basically what happened. Spoiler alert for a 25-year-old comic and a 20-year-old episode of TV, but like, it goes to Shane's head because it's like some of these cops, they get this mentality that they are judge, jury, and executioner. You know what I mean? And it's like
Mhm.
it's such a weird line to walk, because it's like, well, no one really in the real world should be judge, jury, and executioner. But in the Marvel universe, yeah, you have a crazy R-rated superhero who is judge, jury, and executioner. And in the
Right.
Marvel universe, you're like, well, that's kind of okay. What's not okay is police, whether you're in the MCU or in the real world, thinking that they are judge, jury, and executioner. And unfortunately, it happens in both our reality and in the MCU. And I just love that this show is diving deep into that, and it's giving us Frank Castle's insight into that happening. I mean, it's very interesting to me that like how much this feels like it's really tying into some of the issues dealing with our real world today. And I feel like people just aren't like giving the show enough credit that like it's doing that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's just me being naive that like, I'm thinking it's doing more than it is. But I mean, when you're going from your standard of shows being like Moon Knight, where it's like, that was cool, but like, I don't know what Mark Spector stands for as a
Right.
person. I just think that comparing it to shows like that and everything, which to me is the fair comparison because it's the studio putting out this stuff. I think it's like leaps and bounds above some of the other shows that we've been getting. And I think this episode was a great area of that. Last thing I want to touch on, you kind of touched on the Matt half of it, but this episode very much ends with you can only keep the devil down for so long. You see Matt is falling back to his old ways, and then you see Fisk. Nothing has changed. You finally get the payoff of the bruised knuckles. You find out that he's doing cheat meals every night. He said, take that egg white omelet away. Give me 8 kielbasa on my plate right now. He's chowing down. He's got Adam locked up, which I think at this point, I don't think was much of a surprise to us because they kept saying Adam so many times that you're like, okay, there's a reason they're not showing us this Adam guy. There's going to be some big reveal here. I think a lot of people thought that it was going to be exactly this. That being said, though, it was still pretty crazy to see it happen, that he's just got this guy chained up and he's just seemingly wailing on him every night and eating, these crazy cheat meals so that he can do that.
Do you think Vanessa knows that?
I think Vanessa, well, I think then jumping earlier in the episode, I think when they both in the therapy session go, where she's like, where is Adam now? And they both at the same time go, I don't know. I think it's like she knows that he probably killed Adam or thinks that something happened to Adam. But, I think she knows something happened. And I think she doesn't care as much as she claimed to. Like, I think it's more just like when she finds out, I think it's going to be, it's not going to be like, how could you have done this? It's going to be like, I wish you would have told me. Right. Then we could have killed him together. That kind of like, we could have avoided all that. Like Vanessa's so fucked up at this point. It's like, well, we could have avoided all of this tragedy if we just went to kill Adam together or something. That would have brought us closer as a couple. We could have skipped all this therapy. But yeah, I think right now Vanessa probably does not know. But I think when she finds out, I think it's not going to go the way that we would probably think. I think Vanessa she is so far down the dark path right now of like wanting to be the crime boss that I think we just have a lot of interesting twists and turns coming with Vanessa still. But yeah, I just loved the ending and I just love how this show is just paralleling these two men all over the place with just so many different ways and things and like types of scenes. Like they parallel each other with what they're dealing with the themes of what they're dealing with, and with some of the actual stuff that's happening to them. And I like that this episode was called Sic Semper Systema, which is like thus always the system. And it's really about, Frank is talking about Matt just keeps trying to work within the system. Kingpin feels pinned down by the system. Obviously, another great scene that we haven't mentioned. Again, this episode is just so full. Hector's niece with that great monologue as this like little 10-year-old girl or 12-year-old girl. She's upset with the system because she's like, this is what happens. He was just Hector from the Heights. Doesn't matter if he was a hero. Doesn't matter who he saved or how many people he saved. At the end of the day, he's just basically, a brown guy from New York City. And that's all the cops see him as. And I 100% believe that little girl in that moment. Like she was so good in that scene with Matt. I also love Charlie Cox, his performance in that scene where he's like, listen, you have to. And then he's like, we have to believe someone will find justice for Hector. It's the only way that we can keep going forward.
Yeah.
I just thought that scene was so touching right at the beginning of the episode. Yeah, I mean, I I gotta say, I love this episode. I have pretty much loved every episode so far. I think there's been some ups and downs in terms of which ones were fantastic. I think, in my opinion, I think probably episode 3 and then episode 2 are probably my 1 and 2 still. I think episode 3 is, in my opinion, clearly the best one to me, and then I really love episode 2. And then it'd probably be either episode 4 or episode 1. But again, I really like all of them. But yeah, any final thoughts or anything you want to hit on that that we missed? Because there is so much. I wouldn't be surprised if we did miss stuff.
Yeah, no, just kind of tagging on to what you said in the beginning when he's talking to his niece. How you were saying, like, we have to believe that, you know, the system will make this right, but then it's the complete opposite when he's talking to Frank, where Frank's like, what has shown you that the system is going to make anything in your life that you're dealing with right? So maybe you should take it in your own hands. That's just such an interesting way of looking at it. I saw a funny, just real quick, I saw a funny tweet that was like, obviously we get that big scene with Michael Gandolfini and Vincent D'Onofrio, and somebody on Twitter, and I think this was a joke, but they're like, oh, he's gonna end up like Victor from the I was like, this show is a lot of legwork to even get close to the relationship that Victor and the Penguin had.
Yeah. I know, 100%. Yeah, could it go that way?
Yeah.
Yes, it could. Will it be as effective a moment?
Right.
Not even close. Like, no. not even.
Especially just because, like, it's just funny. It was Daniel. Oh my God, he was just falling on the sword time and time again. He was like, my fault, like all this stuff, and maybe he knew because he's like, you know, this guy might murder me, so maybe I should probably apologize.
Yeah, and I just think that it's like you said, and I know I know what you mean by it, but like you were like, you got to get Michael Gandolfini something to do. It's like they gave him a lot to do this week, and I'm like, it just didn't really click like any of it for me.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not sitting there going like, what's going on with this Daniel character? Why are we seeing him? It's like, I get his purpose in the show, but are we going to do anything more interesting with him? / is he going to get any better? Right. And I think the answer might be no on both fronts, because it's like, if there was going to be a moment to win me over, or you over for that matter, it would have been this episode. And it just didn't happen. Like I was just, and now somebody that is winning me over is like, I love Sheila. Like, I think she is fantastic. Like the whole, when Fisk and Daniel are having the big like argument, and she's like, Daniel, maybe just shut the hell up. Like she, like, I thought that was fantastic. Yeah. And then even it flips really dark about a minute later when he goes, if you do that again, it'll be the last thing you ever do.
Yeah.
And Sheila's like, she's got to look like, you mean the last thing he ever does at this job, right? It's like, I don't think he's talking about this job. I think he's talking about at all. But yeah, I just think, honestly, for me, the Daniel character aside, I think a lot is working in this new show, this new version of the show. And I'm just very, very excited to see kind of what comes next.
Same.
But yeah, I mean, guys, that'll do it probably for us. It's so funny. We go, oh, we'll probably do a quick conversation. And to us, we were like, yeah, probably 25 minutes. I feel like we kind of sped through this and we're already at 35 minutes. Yeah. But it's like, it's just such a dense show, honestly. And I would rather have a dense 7.5 out of 10 show than a like really cool like show where nothing really happens, aka Moon Knight. And I liked Moon Knight, but I'm just like, to me, I'm like, if you asked me what that show was about or what happened, I would be like, he had to like free someone's body from the desert or something. And that somehow took 6 hours. This show is like, oh my God, so much is happening. It's just maybe not all of it is executed at 100%, but hey, guess what? Neither was the Netflix show.
Right.
Sorry to tell you that. But yeah, Daredevil, fantastic. So happy that it's back. I don't know why I'm saying this, but I'm just throwing this out there. Obviously, we're going to cover Andor when it comes out on the channel as well, which is coming up soon. Although I will be on vacation actually when the first how unfortunate is this? I will be on vacation when the first 2 weeks of episodes drop. So I will be 6 episodes behind on Andor, probably for a few days at least. But we will try to catch up. And if that means that TJ's going to talk about Andor with somebody else on the channel that week, go for it, because I don't want to stifle any of this stuff by not being here. But very excited for Andor, and very excited to see how Daredevil wraps up. We got about 4 weeks left. Next week we have the big double hitter. So this Wednesday night we will be going live to talk about Daredevil episodes. So what would that be? Episode 5 and 6. So yeah, until then, guys, that'll do it for me. I've been one of your hosts, Sean Monk.
I've been another host, TJ Cornwell. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We will see you next time.
Boom.